Check 1, 2. Okay, guys. Hello. Hello. Hello, Riga. Hey. You know, like, people tell us that Estonians are slow and so on. And then I work with Krists and coming to here. And, like, in Estonia, would people already clap and dance. So, hello, Riga. So it's great to be back here. So my name is Ragnar. I'm coming today from Tallinn, Estonia. I think that when we did Garage 48 hackathons, we was way more active in here. But lately, haven't done hackathons, have done many other things. And basically why we are here is that, you know, I was just talking with Roberts, and he said that he's already preparing 3 months for the winter. Like, that's Latvia, you know. You start to prepare for the winter in August because it will arrive in November. But the problem is that, or the challenge that we see here is that we most likely haven't seen so weird up and down like financial and fundraising market as we see this year from 2008. And as we're living in Nordic country or in the dark times, and we will most likely we start to see like pretty bad close downs in next 3-4 months. And this will hit heavily some people, this will hit some founders and so on. So I have been lately talking with like 40-50 founders, and I'm pretty surprised negatively that, you know, people in this part of the world is not still understanding it sometimes too clearly. Like, I know personally a guy who has 100 people, and he has 2 weeks run rate. 2 weeks. He's pretty well known, I just cannot name the names, understandably. I know also one YC company which everybody talking is going dark already months. I don't know if it's still around. I see public data that they have been going like that. So we will start to see very, very basically weird times. And this is exactly why I wanted to have this event, just kind of like, let's talk about this elephant in the room. Because Silicon Valley did already some huge changes, you know, back in April and May. And it's never black and white indeed, you know. So there's still Estonia doing rounds and you doing rounds and everywhere. But fact is that, you know, like, the elephant in the room is that how you go through when you need to do some very hard things, okay? And pretty happy that I'm not talking alone here, you know. Not stand-up comedy from Estonia. We have also 3 comedians from Latvia. So the first, maybe the most blonde of them, who has many bad jokes and who is daily talking with criminals and renting Teslas. So Egi, please, Egi from Orks Drive. Now I'm thinking, I will do so many bad jokes, maybe I should put you there, because you will hit me one moment.
Yeah, I will.
But we will not switch on microphone.
No, I'll just say like this.
No, can you guys fix the microphone? Is it working? Try.
Da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. Yeah.
Okay. So luckily we have 2 more stand-up comedians, you know. We are not alone here. So we are happy. Oh, okay, let's first Roberts from Nordic. Woo!
Hi, everyone.
And then, yeah, we are in this famous house, you know. You know what's crazy? If I look these logos and stuff, I'm asking, was this ex-Pipedrive designer who did all of those? Because even the colors are similar. But anyway, James, come to the stage. And please answer the first question. Is this some ex-Pipedrive designer who did this?
Well, you know your people.
No, I know the style. It's kind of similar. Anyway, but first, you know, like, let me tell you shortly what's my background today, because people know that I did Pipedrive. Actually, full-time, I'm not a truck driver, as you see from my form, you know. I'm full-time basically working with amazing people how to fundamentally change how you give your upside with your people, or like stock options. That's why we work with Salto X, and this is, believe me, Pipedrive was difficult, and this is like 3-4 times more difficult. This is actually what I do full-time, and yes, I sometimes do investments. I am officially married with Ukraine. And I think that this is what publicly some have seen, some not, but I'm also fundamentally, to my part, that Ukraine would win this war. So I was in Kiev last time, basically months ago, but this is my kind of like the thing which I do before Salto X. Anyway, let's everybody just tell what you do today, just give, because maybe there are some people who don't know who you are. I know you're the biggest stars in Latvia, but let's start from this and then go sound and then we go to the topic.
Okay, so I'm Egia, and maybe you have heard of a new Tesla car sharing, which is Ox Drive. Basically the same way how you can rent right now 3 other car sharing companies. We are offering just Teslas, but with no stickers on the side. So that might be one of the reasons why you haven't noticed them. But on the other side, you can actually drive it as your own car. That's it, my intro.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Robert. I'm from a fintech called Nordigan. We are an open banking platform which essentially lets fintechs connect their users' bank accounts all across Europe. We were recently acquired, so from now on we'll be called Go Cardless. We got acquired by a payments company from UK, so probably these times are a bit better for us than average companies. So yeah.
So you are safe now, you know. Okay, cool.
Congratulations with the easy life. Hi everyone, my name is James, founder, CEO of Printify. We are a print-on-demand platform connecting tens of thousands of amazing e-commerce entrepreneurs selling all kinds of creative, decorated merchandise, T-shirts, hoodies, hats, wall art, you name it. And on the production side, industrial manufacturers who produce those products and dropship directly to the end customers. Ragnar, thank you for inviting me to this event, and thank you everyone for coming. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So basically, yeah, let's just talk about this elephant in the room. Like, as I said before, you know, like, I actually had my first startup in 2008 when we had last crisis. It is 14 years ago, which is crazy. So I should go to the senior league now. So, and you know, believe it or not, but I was fundraising in 2008. So I literally went out in October 2008, you know, which is the worst thing ever to do the fundraising. So my company was United Dogs and Cats. So, which is basically Facebook for dogs and cats. We had already first investor, which is Skype founders investment company. And just very shortly, like we actually did around one moment, like I think that October, we did around in the May, like 7 months later, 2009, May, I think we signed documents. I think that this was the, I definitely believe Polish people have even worse documents. I signed it. But from the Baltics, I believe, and also because there's some criminals in Latvia, okay, true. But I think that this is the Estonian history, one of the worst documents I signed, because I had government one who is investing to my company, and everything was basically in the Excel, like, you know, next 12 months, you know, revenue, budget, and so on. So I was extremely unhappy already the moment when I signed it. And it actually blew up. So I actually was going through to firing everyone and closing down the company, which was the most crazy thing. And, you know, last, I think that 2010, basically, 2009 from the November until maybe the April was super dark times, you know the company is failing and you're just going around trying to make, because I had the case that I had also conflict with investors, which kind of like leads that they actually fired me. Which is interesting that you can actually fire like founder indeed, like there's many stories about that. But the one thing which I was working heavily and which basically is the reason why we maybe succeeded in Pipedrive, that so there's many cases when you have to make a choice what to do. And I even fired my team in that way that they can get government like, you know, support, because you can actually fuck up even that one. And these times was extremely difficult. Like we actually, the other thing is, which is unbelievable, is that we did total coding. So we actually coded our like platform from zero. And we put like deadline in November. It was, I think, at 1st of March, and we actually launched it in 1st of March, which is maybe once in my life when we launched it right time. It's impossible. But really, like at this moment, like it was hell, but surprisingly, all of those people, which was United Talks, like many of them joined Pipedrive, but others went the other way, and they have been extremely talented and super smart people. But the point was always like, you know, it's just whatever happens, I was thinking like, 24/7, you know, what to do save them, you know. And, you know, and that was stupidly, I remember that I had board meeting, you know, I mean, with some government official and some angel investors. And they was like, come to the investor side. Like, this is actually a sentence from a board meeting. It was like, what do you mean with that? Like, almost like, don't like be so much with your team. I was blown away. I was like shocked. What do you mean with that? But anyway, this was my experience in very dark times. So guys, let's share also, because all of you has been going through with the things. And my takeaway really was like that moment that, you know, you need to start to prepare the things like before shit hits the fan. And we were thinking so many things through, you know, like, because I was, the challenge that we had also said, if you have public money, then, you know, public money means that, you know, public can also ask what happened. So we even prepared case that it will go to the news and so on. It's kind of like went bad and good, because we prepared, but still journalist was like talking about everything. And so I was kind of officially banned, like, not only me, also my sister, by the way, to have any governmental corporations or anywhere, like at least 2 years. Because that moment it was like, if you fail a startup, you're a criminal. Like, it can't be other way. Because who would ever fail a startup? It's the first time in Estonian history, you know. But it was really tough, you know. But I think that, yeah, like, it's mentally tough. And this is, I will open up later, but I think that the mentality is something which I think that is extremely important if you are founder and CEO and management, whatever, how you survive that thing, you know. Because we will see, and that's exactly why was the reason why I'm here. But let's start with your tough things, you know. Because I know that you was in Garage 48, did some things, and then did other things. Is it your first startup, and have you had some dark things when you need to really go and fire people and do the things in the scale?
Yeah, so in general, Oxdrive is a very early stage, of course, startup, which you launched a bit less than 4 months ago. So for this startup, the only kind of like dark times that I can share, these guys will be able to share more, is that we were raising money during the pandemics, and then the war started. And that was the time when we are trying to raise money for a pre-revenue startup with no MVP, because it's like, well, how can you make a car sharing, buy one car and show that, hey, yeah, people are going to drive this one car that's in the city? So it's very hard. So our basically only sell was that previously I was the country manager of City B Latvia, and I brought it here to Latvia. So that was, you know, like something that we could really rely on and tell the experience of those times and show that, yeah, it works. And I knew that there is a market for fancy cars, like a premium segment. So that was the first thing that we were struggling with, because we needed that money. And sometimes we were kind of like even discussing that, okay, well, maybe we'll not pull this off and maybe this will not work. Because we were really like all the other stories from one investor to the second, to the third, to the fourth, and like going rounds and rounds. And when the first one said yes, while we were looking for the second one, the first one already said, no, I already found another startup where to invest because you are taking so long. Eventually, of course, just by, you know, like believing in this and kind of like, okay, fuck it, we have to do it. And then the second one was actually when we are already now, we have launched, everything is fine, you know, like we are beating all the numbers that we have predicted, investors are super happy, everything is cool. And then what was it, like September? And then there's sudden surge in electricity prices. And it's like, it used to cost like 15 cents per minute in eMobi. And in that moment, the price changes from 15 cents per minute to 52 cents per minute. It kind of like sounds okay, those are cents, but when you charge a car at that moment, basically, when we calculated, it was cheaper for you to drive like 1.2, 1.4 diesel a BMW instead of driving an EV if you charge at eMobi stations. Of course, Electrum Drive also, Electrum raised prices also significantly. Then we look at the numbers and we understand that like, okay, and we starting seeing that in September, people started kind of like saving more money, so they started driving less. Kind of like more people signed up, but they started driving less. So, and we're like, okay, so prices are up. People start to be scared of their finances, so they start to kind of like save more money. Then we had to come up with like an action plan. We installed basically like 6 slow chargers at our warehouse, and we charge only at night. You know, there was one night actually where there was like electricity market price was like 0.00 cents. And it was like, okay, let's go. Let's charge all the cars that night. And but also we gave like discounts to our customers because we understood, okay, tomorrow you can drive with 10% discount because we charge the cars for free. Well, it's, of course, it's not fully free because still you have to pay, you know, like all those additional costs, but it's still kind of like funny. Then we found partners who have private charging stations inside their business areas. And of course, like, for example, maybe Printify would install like a charging station, but not that many people actually have EVs. So we started driving cars there, and then the Tesla supercharger opened, which is for free, and then nights we are always there. And kind of like...
Where the criminals hang out, right?
Exactly. So these were basically the biggest challenges now, but before, like at CityV Times, what I can share, the biggest problem is, of course, like the pandemics, everyone knows, where we had to fire people because at that moment, everything was so bad that you can see that you just cannot pull the finances together. And that was very, very, very tough because, you know, like that team was also small. So everyone is like a family. And then how do you say, and how do you choose then which one is the one who will kind of like fall off?
You was responsible firing?
Yes.
And how did you choose then?
Well, in the end, we chose what can I do, meaning that if I can take over those tasks of that person, then kind of like, because I had to choose one person. That was, of course, like management of CityB of Lithuania. They were, of course, giving the instructions that, okay, you have to choose one person. He has to be let go. So then really I chose the person whose job I could do the best, the fastest, the easiest. It wouldn't require me even to kind of like learn that. So that was marketing in that time.
But so you needed to sit down with a person on fire. How did it went?
So remember, that's pandemic, so it's over Zoom. So it's the first basically cycle, and it's total lockdown. So we are at home. You're not even allowed to almost go out. So that was awful, because you really don't know how to approach in that moment. You cannot even show really the emotions. So yeah, in short, it didn't go well. Yeah.
Okay. I had, I will give you image the robots, but I have fired people, you know, clearly. My worst thing was that person comes to the room, and you know, I have prepared, I have somebody next to me as well, because sometimes you need to have that because of legal reasons. And what? Yes, security. I am starting to speak, I'm speaking 2 minutes, and the person just runs away. I'm not kidding.
What did you say?
It was very specific.
We need to talk.
Yeah, no, it was a very specific thing, but this person was really burned out. And she was too much for her, and she was running away. The good news is that we are friends, by the way, because I think that we can go to the detail of the firing indeed, but I think that always what I have done, if somebody needs to leave the team, even first of all, firing is too tough word, because it's already guilty, you know, and negative. So what I have done every time when I do those things, I'm first of all, it is my mistake, because at the end of the day, if you're a CEO and founder, you make the decision to hire this person to your team, and whatever happens, this is your responsibility. So indeed, there might be the reasons and blah, blah, blah. And I haven't had, like, you are dealing with criminals. I haven't dealt with criminals. So, okay, sorry. She was showing her Instagram message. You don't want to say that. So I haven't had, actually I had in my God, I actually had the case now, I remember. United Talks, we had one person from Venezuela who was a salesperson. He was giving our computer to Ponzi, the store, like just giving computer to get money from these places. So this was criminal case actually, but otherwise no. But yeah, please you, because can you share us the dark moments and how did you get through? And please.
I'll start off with when we talk about firing. I did my first firing in my professional life 10 years ago, and the person cried in the end. So, like, I definitely have learned a lot since then. But I think I would say, can I share the sentiment of probably every founder saying, kind of, most of us have experienced very kind of quite a few existential crises, and I've definitely had few of those, and it would be really a long night if I would have to go in all of them in detail. But kind of just to give you snapshots, like COVID, like beginning of COVID was hard. Like we lost 30% of revenues in one day. Like we have made pivots where we have to fire half of the team. I still remember the room where 13 people were fired, like as a group fire. So, like definitely.
You did group fire.
Yeah, like my co-founder did it. I watched.
Okay. So you were like, I am in the TV show, you know.
Yeah.
TV is I'm not the show. I'm watching it. Okay, go on.
Yeah, sometimes you have to do group firings. Anyway, so like I kind of experienced all the kind of dark
Tell
things.
more about that.
The group one. Yeah. So fine. So
See how you close that.
yeah, it's definitely a traumatic event. Yeah, so that was a. So anyways, kind of the story is as follows. So we worked on a project, let's say, for a year, and failed. And then we had this big question. So what do we do? And the way I like to describe the moment is like when you drive a car on a highway, like doing 100 kilometers an hour, and just like pull a handbrake. That was literally what we did the company. So kind of shit hit the fan in many different ways. Also, I think the group fire was actually firing all our sales team. So we decided that our sales mechanism doesn't work. It was like outbound sales process we had, and we fired them all. I mean, again, over the 10 years, like I've learned a lot of mistakes of how not to fire people, and there are some fitting moments for group firing, and definitely that wasn't the one. So like I think the thing about firing is like in many ways, like when like it's a normal times, I think people should expect them to be fired. If you set right expectations and have kind of clear lines of communication, like when you have the meeting, the person should like, I know, like you don't have to tell me anything, right? Not the reason, not what's going to happen. Like that's generally kind of my mantra, how I approach these situations. When it comes to like group hiring was like a not normal thing. So I would say like we've done pretty bad job in crisis situations. So even this kind of COVID situation I mentioned. So like we came in and said like, hey, like COVID 30% revenue drop, like we're in it together, and people like, no, like you're in it, like I can find another job. So like either you pay me salary or like I'm off. So I it's and like I think it nicely touches with options, and it's a bit more broader topic. But like in good times, you're with the company. In bad times, like you're everyone on their own. So, and I think when it comes to crisis management, like I think the one big thing, I think one main point I would make is like empathy. So I think many people fail to kind of comprehend that, because they fairly often think of crisis management as like a very kind of operational thing, like, so kind of save money here, do that, like do this, but like it's people we're dealing with. So I think that's one of my biggest learnings over time, especially on crisis management firing, is like how to kind of keep the personal side of people, and how you I'm kind of still not great at those things, but right, it's emotional, so there's a lot to contemplate.
But why did you decide that group? Because I think group is very difficult. Because in my case, I haven't had that, but you have. So actually, I think that there are two things which is very difficult. First of all, online, The worst is online group firing with recorded message. Like, that's fucking hell, don't ever do that. We are not in Silicon Valley, they know where you live, and they come and get you, isn't it? So, but why did you, like, exactly, because I assume he was talking, and these 13 people, you didn't manage to do this, whatever, differently, because it's very dangerous thing.
Like, I don't truly remember, like, all the details, but if kind of, to some extent, kind of like our teams are really kind of close-knit, right? So everything knew everything, and kind of we wanted to address everything at once, right? So like if everyone has like any beef, like let's talk it out, like we're in a single room, like, I mean, like I think you're correct to point out, like it can escalate, right? In our case, like it's lucky it didn't.
I'm happy you're alive.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, but I mean, like I don't think it's worth even kind of going in detail why we did it, right? Because like it's probably not the wisest idea to do.
Yeah, we saw already from your body language. Okay, so James, you have said definitely many great stories about that, yeah.
Maybe you talked pretty lengthy about firing, and since you're talking about crisis, letting people go is definitely one sort of crisis. How many people in the audience are founders or would like to be founders in the future? Yes, that counts. All right. More than half. That makes me really, really happy. I strongly suggest everyone to be a founder. It's great. You have to give up your personal life, and it's still great. I think every founder at the early beginning of their founder adventure are going through a number of existential crises. That is the crisis of survival. And often they end up not surviving, like you shared your story, and I believe many of the people in the room have gone through that already, me myself personally as well. I have been an entrepreneurial kid since the childhood, starting with helping my parents in the garage with repairing cars, then accessories for Apple products, then even tried to import electronics products like wall sockets with USB charging ports, so doing all kinds of things. And eventually every one of them failed. And I felt like absolute idiot. Such a big failure. Today I know that failure is only when you don't learn something from it. That's what they teach you, and it makes you feel better, and that's true. But in the early days when you are failing, well, then it feels very different. It's easy to say to somebody, hey, you learned something. We'll smile about it. Life is good. But when you're failing, and if you're especially if you're in debt, as I was, I had borrowed money, and I had spent quite a lot of money from my sister that invested, I felt like absolute shit. I can only say the same thing. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And my recommendation to you is keep carrying on. And don't hold it inside. Discuss that with other founders. Share the emotions. I was a very introvert person in my family. We didn't talk about problems and issues. Like a real man doesn't have problems. Like everything is great. And I felt really, really depressed. Despite that, I carried on and kept on trying, even to the extent like for Printify, my last asset that I had was my Saab 9.3, like pretty old car that I lended in order to buy, have budgets to finish up more of the software development and fly to Canada to meet Shopify. Eventually, it turned out amazing success stories, but it almost guaranteed will take you a number of times to fail and learn. And I think that's just a normal process. Just anticipate that you will fail and I think back then I didn't have that San Francisco mindset that fail fast and learn and recycle. I think now you can hear more of that and learn more about it. So just expect that that will be part of it. And grit is number one trait for successful founders. So stamina, perseverance, not giving up. That's the most important factor that I recommend every early startup founder is continue carrying on, and given long enough time, you will succeed.
I can add to that even though we are early stage startup, you still kind of like feel sometimes like shit. But then I know that there are mostly guys here, but basically you go home, you cry a little bit, then it's kind of like 30 minutes pass, and you're like, okay, now I'll work.
Will you cry now, James?
In my family, real men don't cry.
But but in Printify, how much you needed to let people go?
Unfortunately, we have to had it to do it more than once, a few times, and I can only resonate with what you say. Every time that happens, it's your fault, the fault of the management, and primarily the founder. Doesn't matter if it was unforeseen economy for that person that is being let go. It's not their fault. And one recommendation I can just complementing on what has been said before, be very human, be very honest. People understand, and when I didn't have that experience, I would maybe try to play the poker face and be kind of some sort of theater, but be very honest and about the situation, and people understand that you are in a situation that you have to make that choice. And of course, nobody's happy that they are that specific person that needs to be let go. So yeah, that's also is just part of every company's life cycle.
Yeah. So and the other part is indeed that if you need to do those changes in your company, how you actually keep these existing people motivated. Because if you start to basically go with the rough times, you know, I think the most dangerous if you do the first wave of firing, and after 3 months you do again, and then people are like, what the fuck? You know, like, is it third wave, fourth wave, and so on. And that's exactly, I think this is exactly the challenge what we have. Like, founders fundamentally have to be extremely positive people. They would otherwise never start a company, by the way. You just can't be negative and run a company because you would just, no one will join you, first of all. But you have to be extremely positive. Like, you know, you just, oh, we do it 2 weeks, but you will launch 2 months and so on. And this is the toughest things at first, how you do those, you understand that this is not temporary and so on, and you try to make this change without repeating it and repeating it. That's extremely important. And the other part is how you motivate and deliver the news for people who stays. And how you basically, the one thing that is like many levels indeed, like I think that, so let me ask also questions. Like, I think in Estonia, what we have seen that, you know, like luckily, because of Skype success and now Bolt, Pipedrive and TransferWise, stock options are kind of like already market, like, you know, like normality. No one would join company without it. How many people have received stock options? Just raise hands. Who has stock options in your company? I don't see so many hands, by the way. Interesting. Okay. Because like, and why I'm talking about it said, I believe you should give them anyway, even without crisis, but especially in the crisis, like if you haven't done that, I would respect it to do it from there, how to treat every person in the company as a partner. Like, I'm super happy that Bolt, by the way, which has now 4,000 people, have people in 50 different countries, has given stock options to every person. Okay, there is 2 countries I think that they didn't give. I think one was Tanzania. Was it Tanzania? Like in Tanzania, to give stock options, you need to get paper from the local governor to do that. A central bank, okay. Yeah, and king have to approve it. And other countries, I think that Australia was also close to impossible. But they literally have been hiring army of lawyers to be sure that people feel, that they are part of that. And believe me, my own, I think that my biggest success I felt was not Pipedrive exit, but how many people life Pipedrive changed who joined us. So, but if you go to crisis, you need to first be very transparent. I would, just say, and communication have to be very honest as well. But come on, you need to build, let's say, real partners of the company. And usually in that situations you need to double up, give more options and so on. Because many times, in tough times, we had cases that we need to reduce the salary, but we will give you more stock options. Do we record this? Okay, I cannot tell you. There is more things what you can do, but I think the tax board wouldn't happy with that. Let me say that. It's not about cash, by the way, sorry. But the point is that sometimes you need to just go and deliver a message that, we are here together, we did it and so on. So keeping people motivated is a freaking difficult thing. And that's why running it and doing stock options, sharing information. Like in Pipedrive we had, if you would be in Pipedrive, not in the first floor, but second floor, this would show you the online KPIs, how many clients and so on. So we had that level. I still have access to Pipedrive Slack. I can still see that. I am the only founder, by the way, who sees that for some reason. But anyway, so what is your successions? Because exactly, it's not about the start times, but how to keep motivated in these times and what you would tell. And also please touch this, are you giving stock options and how you see that?
So that time when we needed to hire that only person, then I was brutally honest. I just told everyone else why it needed to be, why it was happening. And then also you were saying you can decrease salaries, but for example, you double the stock options, right? So in that times we had a different case. So we fired that one person. Then for everyone, the salaries got decreased just with a promise that in 3 to 4 months, they will kind of come back to the previous level, but no doubling of stock options. Yeah. CDB didn't offer any stock options at the moment at all. No, not at all.
Is this company around still?
Yeah, but they're not offering them at all. But what I learned and saw how they motivate those people, how can you actually still do it, is basically having very, very cool brand that just people feel very honored that they can say, I've worked there. And that was basically how they were driving in Lithuania, so their Lithuanian brand, because people actually wanted to be associated with that company. And of course, they played more on young generation, because of course it was harder to convince someone who is more experienced that, hey, you will just be able to wear this badge. But for young people, they found that niche, that it worked kind of and that's it. For them, that worked. What I saw, for example, in Lithuanian market, people were changing a lot still. So in Latvian market, we actually didn't have a person who left. And what I just did differently is that we still were a small team. So it's easier to be done with the small teams. So I really, really, really honestly cared about the people. Really, I even cared if kind of there was a guy who had a bad date. So he was a bit kind of off that day. I really cared. I asked questions okay, maybe you do next time this, I really tried to kind of understand each person's perspective on life, motivation in life, and if that person I know needs a bit more flexibility, I give him more flexibility. If that person I see is actually, he needs more kind of emotional support where I say, oh, you are a good boy, then I would do that. So you like that, right? So that was my approach. I just really, really tried and invested a lot of time just in making sure that people feel that I love you, I care about you, you're very, very valued, and I really appreciate you. So that was what I put a lot of effort on, because I understood that I cannot in that company offer anything else to you. So, and this really worked. People really, really appreciated that. And right now what we are doing, we are setting up also a stock option pool, We haven't done that yet because it's not that easy still.
Isn't it?
And but at least we have spoken to our people as well that, hey, it's basically, you know, also like an opportunity for you. We want to see like how do you perform, and we plan to do this. And if we see that this kind of like there is a perfect fit and we can work together, then we would love to actually share the ownership of the company, and that you can actually, by your work, it's like, you know, immediate action. Basically, how I see it is that instead of fulfilling just my orders so that I would be happy and you would receive your monthly paycheck, you're actually willing to do that extra work so that the company earns more, so eventually you earn more.
Yeah, I think that also the challenge with stock options is that if you don't have big exits, and you haven't exited yet, so James, so then it's difficult to explain people what it is. And you know, the most sad story what also motivated me to start Salto X was that even in Pipedrive, we had people who had stock options, but they didn't realize them. They didn't buy them out. Because there is many reasons for that, but the reason first, we failed to explain it. And it was so sad. But the good thing, you did very good pitch. So if you start to fail, I will hire you next day. Basically, Chris, please write it down. So it's on your hiring list now. I hope it will not fail, but I believe you're a good manager. Thank you. But good boy. What the fuck? Anyway, never had that on the stage. So Robert, how about you? How did you motivate, and what is your suggestions and things?
So I think first thing is that I think we should understand that like people are different, right? So different people are motivated by different people. So stock options, although I really believe them, are not universal problem solvers. So there's some people that like working in a certain brand. Some people work because they have good people around them. Some people just like love what they do, and some people are motivated by stock options because you shared kind of the upside of company succeeding. And like I really, before we gave up stock options, I don't think I thought about it too much. And the further we went, the more I hired people that were motivated by stock options, because you don't have to kind of look at people or follow people. Kind of there's motivation wherever they are, especially if you have a remote work and if you don't micromanage people. So I'm a big believer in stock options. The way we gave stock options was a tremendous flop. Remember my COVID story? COVID starts, we lose 30% of clients and revenue. So our idea, you know what? Let's give out people options, because like, you know, tough times, we came up in the pitch like, you know, we're in this single boat, like all of us are together, all of us are now the option holder, kind of owners of the company. And people are like, you know, but like we're doing bad. Like your options are kind of worthless. like I don't need them. And we were like, oh shit. Yeah, so that didn't work very well. Like, you know, like I think there's a few reasons. One thing that really resonates to me is like most people don't understand how options work. Not only the pure mechanics on like vestings, cliffings, and whatnot, but like really the purpose of the mechanism. And I think you simply cannot give options and expect like your problem is going to be solved. It's really hard work, and especially in Latvia, because like as you saw from the hands raised, like it's not very common thing, right? So people still don't know like whether that's something good or bad, and like we still, when we actually still hire people, that's something we emphasize a lot and talk in early interviews with people. But yeah, like I think my suggestion would be like definitely give out stock options, like probably the best thing you can do as like early stage company, because there's nothing else you can compete with for the most part, and definitely make sure people understand what the hell they are, right? So it's not just like a flashy financial instrument, but like it really needs a lot of explanation around it.
So actually, very good point, because when we built that Pipedrive, so Pipedrive was first Estonian company, but 2011 we moved to the US, and then we indeed, telephone company. And the problem with US legal system is that so as you US company, you have lawyers and they want to basically regulate whatever you talk. And I think that we had the challenge that HR exactly was talking, just overall, you get stock options, all is cool. I basically took a risk and tell people, hey guys, this is worth today, let's say 20,000. So if you would earn them in 4 years, this 10,000, and historically it has been doubling up every year. I really showed the numbers to them. Like I'm calculating you have whatever, let's say 0 point whatever about the company. Last valuation round we had that. And our history, you can say that after 2 years, or you can say in the last fund, whatever, this is the number. And you have to use exact examples, because the problem is if your friends hasn't received it, you haven't received it, and so on. People are like, what is that, So but I think that I didn't want to even tell this to our legal team because they would switch it off, Because they were like, but you're promising, but the problem is that US, if you tell that thing, and let's say you go to bankruptcy, and theoretically someone can go to the court and tell you told that. But I was like, fuck that hell, I'm taking the risk, And that's the one thing why those things are not working, But I think, as I said, like, this is the one level. You have to do many other things, But this one thing. But you have US company, so tell us your, like how, but exactly. Let's have it not as stock options, which is important, but also other things what you did to keep people motivated if you go through these waves.
Right. Going back to how to keep people motivated, and just for the record, we are super strong supporters of stock options. Printify was the first company in Latvia to issue stock options to everyone. We also lobbied the stock option law, and I'm super proud of Latvia that we are now #1 country in rankings with the easiest and most friendly stock option law. One thing we are ahead of Estonia.
You're only #2.
I think that Estonia, Latvia, Slovenia was all top 3 in index rating, but go on.
One recommendation what I can give if you have to let go people and how to keep the remaining people motivated is reducing salaries was mentioned here before. So the logic is, hey, let's not fire that many people. Let's rather fire a few and reduce salaries for the existing people. That is a very slippery slope, and generally my advice would be to rather cut sharper, let go even more people, unfortunately, but make sure that the remaining people are better motivated. I strongly believe that you can do more with fewer people that are really motivated than with slightly more people that are not so happy anymore be here because now they need to cut their budgets and so on. Also, when doing this exercise, if you have to do let people go, your vision and mission is very important. It's very important to understand who are the people who believe in the company, in the management, in the success of the company's future. And then when you have to do that, well, there is just no other option. My recommendation is to cut sharper so that you can leave the same salaries for existing people. Maybe even, and that some companies do, and I even recommend that, is doing a slight top-ups for the top performers, because there is one thing you don't want to lose, it's your top performers. Like your key people, they are paramount for the success of company. There is a management methodology called that barrels and bullets, that if you imagine a gun, most people are like bullets, but what you really need are barrels. That is where you load the bullets, and those barrels are the people that are the top performers, that people to whom you can give a task and they can do it from A to Z, and they do it really good without the need for micromanagement. And so my second recommendation is really pay attention to your top performers, have one-on-one discussions with them, how they feel, what are their circumstances, to make sure that they are motivated. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, basically one-on-ones is indeed the one thing that, the one thing which I did if we fired someone was actually, you announce the news and then you're like, I'm having one-on-ones with everyone to just explain it. Because many times you can say some things publicly and you know, exactly, it's just so critical. Whatever way you are communicating the news, you cannot ever use negative word, whatever it was. We had actually one guy, now I remember, in Pipedrive, we almost needed to have security guy. Because he was an emotional guy, you know, he was like going to the gym and so on, you know. Actually, and you know, surprisingly, I stayed friends with him, but he hated his boss like all life, you know. But he was the guy, like, you know, his like hand was bigger than head, you know. And it's almost like needed. We always like offered, you know, like in the case when we let somebody to go, I think that in market standard, you need to give 1 or 2 months salary. I think it's 1 month usually it's 1 month, and you need to give notice of 30 days. In kind of standard, we was always like 3 months. Because of, it takes time people to first of all, like go out of that and so on. The problem is if you are basically almost hitting the wall, you don't have money indeed. So in that situations, you most likely can't do that. But yeah, this is super important, but also later, exactly, having one-on-ones and explain them and just being brutally honest, as you said. Because the biggest problem is if you're not honest with the shit you are hitting, then people will not trust you anymore, you know. And exactly, that's why these one-on-ones, exactly, is so critical all the time, but especially if you are hitting that, you know. I would exactly say that as soon you have those changes, just double it up, you know. I don't know, like I'm running my own one-on-ones bi-weekly with 5-6 people. This is a very good time. You can always cancel them, you know, no need, but this is a very good thing. I want also like, we have talked to the hour. I think at one moment I will open up, you can ask questions, but I want to also touch 2 other topics. So what is good in that is that we have been last few years changing how we work. Which means that I believe, how many people is working in a company which is basically at least half remote? Exactly. So more than half. I would say 60-70%. And that's the standard now. I think that, but sorry, who is working in company which says that you have to every day to go to office, only office work? Okay, no one. You wanted to.
They're at the office now.
Exactly. That's the thing, but you know, like, it is a good and bad. The good is that you can hire your designer from Nigeria. The bad is that...
or from Pipedrive.
Yes, yeah, everybody, you can try easily, but I'm just telling you that Pipedrive salaries are fucking crazy. Good luck with that. The challenge of that is you need to run your team basically remote first. If you have people remotely, you need to build your structure and stuff, and also you will start to have different people from different cultures, which is bad. If you're too big, like in Pipedrive, we almost needed to kill fun channel because some people felt very like you would be in the jail, most likely, girl. So your jokes
You will soon have to explain to people why you're all the time saying some of those things.
You just did something on the States as well, I don't know. Like we had the case that, okay, I will not tell this because we are recording and other things. But the point is that, what is your experience with remote work and different people in the culture? So how much you need to adapt to do the things? I think the people in Estonia, we have experience, we don't want to have someone boss from Lithuania. So how did you survive that one?
Well, first of all, I think that for many people it works, but there are, of course, always people for whom it doesn't work and they get demotivated. But of course, like very soon you will find out who are they, and that, well, basically only 30% of the time they're actually working. We had that case where we found out the person was actually just kind of like, you know, just having fun, just relaxing every day, and that's it. But you, of course, you will find out because there are no results. Otherwise, I don't have much to kind of like, from my experience, to tell about this, because we were only like, back in the previous company, we were only from Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And still, even before the pandemics, we were still all the time online on Zoom, because we were already like an international company. So we had to all the time talk over the Zoom. So that basically didn't change a lot. The only thing that changed is basically, yeah, people on the streets, for example, fleet guys who are working with the cars in car sharing, they were not able to come into the office and, you know, sometimes just tell their problems. They had to call. And for them, that was the biggest issue. So we did differently. We started doing, you know, like those meetings outside. It was freezing. It was like -15, -17. And we were all standing in a circle, like 2-meter distance outside. And it was freezing, but we held that meeting because we understood that we have to kind of like get people used to it, to use the Zoom. So then we started those people who kind of like felt very comfortable with it. Those started joining in from Zoom through the phone. And then the rest of the people, we still met outside. And then, you know, until everyone were able to join the Zoom meetings. So that's basically my only experience from that. I think that guys will be more able to tell something.
I think that in this COVID time, great example was there was one engineer working in Boeing, and he hired somebody doing his job from India, and was 10 times less, and he just showed up and uploaded the stuff and left the office. So that's the best thing from this Zoom and COVID time.
I would definitely hire that person. Like.
Yeah. So what about you, about remote and different cultures?
I think if remote doesn't work in your company, then you have shit management. Like, I think there's definitely some things that like needed to change. Like, you know, like definitely have to be results focused, right? So I don't care if you play PlayStation the whole day, but like if you deliver results, like that's all I need. Surely you need to work a lot on information and transparency, so everybody would be looped in and so forth. But the hardest part about remote work, I think, boils down to people being social beings, right? So what do I mean by that? Like, first of all, I think some parts of your belongingness to company comes from meeting other people from company. Especially I find that people who joined during COVID, like they only saw faces in Zoom, right? So it's much harder for them to build this, let's say, this link with other people. That's one thing. The other thing is, again, like you know, like when you asked me about this group firing, like you instantly noticed my kind of posture, right? So I think a lot about communication is on reading people. So I think that is probably the hardest to manage, or even small things like these so-called water cooler effects, right? So I find that a lot of ideas I have is when I bump up with someone and just like talk random stuff. So you can be functioning company as a functioning remote company, if you just employ some basic principles, but like sustaining those like human interactions online is, I think, very hard to manage. And I would not claim that we have managed to do, and that's why we have a hybrid model. It's yeah, you can opt to choose where you want to work from. Quite a few people choose to come to office like a couple times a week, and I think we can still have a nice balance. So I wouldn't claim that I would be able to manage like full remote teams, because I don't know how to make this like human interactions like online, but probably someone has figured out.
But you had just basically, you have still only Latvians in the team, or you don't have culture clash?
It's a fairly it's fairly international team, like a bunch of people all around.
But now when when you're working for UK, was it UK company?
Yeah.
Is it change of the culture you feel that, or how people understanding messages now?
Yeah, by the way, like when somebody's buying it, make sure they have the same culture. Like,
how did you make sure that, by the way?
You can go have beers, like, I don't know.
Just 2 beers, getting drunk, and great culture.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Much.
Okay, James, you have like, how many different nationalities Printify has now?
It's over 30.
30?
Yeah.
My God. So tell us how it is to run. You have so many, and what is this last 2 years remote and so on experience?
We have been a very inclusive company since the very beginning. I learned to appreciate diversity first when I got an opportunity to study abroad in Netherlands, and there we had 50 different nationalities in the same course. So diversity has been part of our DNA since the very early days. And I think that now it is very convenient for us. We have people from all across Europe and even outside of Europe. And it's maybe when you have so much diversity, it becomes again easier. It's harder when you have a very dominant one group and then minorities. So at least it seems that it's working very, very well for us, and remote is working very well for us. We as founders were against remote work before the COVID. I think COVID is an international tragedy, but for the work setup, amazing. I love it. It's really, really great. Many of our two of our top leadership team are right now in Southeast Asia, and me myself, I'm flying to Bali in 2 weeks to work from there, and quite few people work from places that are warmer and sunnier, so it's really can also improve the quality of life a lot. The one caveat, what has been mentioned already, is that interpersonal relationship, and there I think there is no replacement for that than the physical interactions. To give you a personal anecdote, we have really brilliant chief product officer who joined early this year, and he came to. We met the first time, I think, after 2 months that he had joined, and we had a leadership on-site together, and we went for some beers and went out. And he told me, James, if it wasn't for this meeting in person, I think I would have left. It was so valuable for that other person to have that in-person meeting, conversations, understand your thought process. So I strongly recommend to try to make that part of your process of running the business. We as a leadership, my team try to meet very frequently to develop that team cohesiveness so that we would be stronger, more aligned team, and I recommend that for everyone.
So by the way, the Zoom and the remote, I officially hate it, even in COVID times, I was like, fuck that shit, I'm going to office. And the reason is that I just can't be effective at home. I'm lucky living in Tallinn, I'm walking to the office 20 minutes and my brain immediately switches. Indeed, I can do calls, but I discovered I'm just effective in the office. I put my headphones, this is my Zoom zone, But I know some engineers are so good at that. I'm like, I don't know how you switch off everything. I will ask last thing and then everybody can ask. But diversity, by the way, there are interesting trend now. There are VCs who has literally there are many VCs who is asking that from you when they are investing now. And it's not only that. Heller today, who is investing Pipedrive co-founders, basically investor manager, she showed now in the SHA even. One company put diversity, whatever ratings or stuff they have into the SHA. Not by investors, but they felt they needed to put into SHA. It was like, wow, never heard that. But definitely, this is usually strength, but the challenge is if you have 50 people and you have, I think that in our company, for example, if somebody would have even any thoughts about how to explain, in Pipedrive, we had one person who was extremely talented, brilliant person, but he supported Putin. And it was like, how you, and it was already that time was, the case was black and white. So you need to basically address that. But last thing, and then everybody can ask questions, few, is mental health and how you, as a founder, as a CEO, as a manager, survive that, and what you would give advice to everyone here who is already a founder or who want to be the founder. Because this is exactly what I started, and I want to touch it also here. Because what I have personally learned, maybe the biggest lesson is that how to not being guilty that you fucked up basically almost daily. Because that's that's because what was my thing that, I was in the school, I was pretty good grades, stuff, and so on. And if my company failed, I felt like a fucking biggest failure basically in all Estonian history, you know. Like, maybe in the 13th century, when Germany took us over, it was some guy who lost the battle. He was maybe bigger. But I literally learned to being okay with that, and honestly don't have any emotions when something blows up, which I started or which I'm part of that. And it is difficult, by the way, because mentally we are not meant to fail. Why the fuck you start if you fail, isn't it? But like, I talk, for example, with Ahti Heinla, who is a founder of Skype. He's doing Starship now. And he told like very interesting thing for me, like, so exactly, everybody knows Skype, and maybe you know Starship. I think how many know? Very few, most likely. No, you know, yeah. But he has done actually 10 companies. And you know just one, Skype and maybe Starship. What the fuck happened with 8? They failed. Think about it. Ratio is only for him, who is a brilliant engineer and one of the most toughest cookies, because he did unicorn and he's still working with new company. And that's usually like, let's see, I think that our Jesus, maybe if you will sell, let's see what you will do. Will you start new company or not? So I think that this is the learning point for you mentally. And you need to basically learn how to be offline and take care of your mental thing. For me, I go to the nature. I have a dog, which is very famous. He has been in basically all my startups. And I'm still Estonian. I have moments when I don't want to speak with anyone. Can you imagine that? I'm like, fuck off, don't go here and talk with me. Today is fine. But what is your things, how you take care of mental health? You know, because it's super important. And you know, people don't talk about it. We haven't had extreme cases, but other countries, things go bad. Very tragic things happened. Starting from you, brutal honesty.
I have few things. One thing is that I already mentioned this crying thing, but it's meant for like, I also grew up with, not that just only real men don't cry, but basically I was raised by dad who was like, you know, you are the tough girl. He sent me to karate and other things. So it was kind of like I was more raised like a guy. And so I also grew up with that mindset that basically like I can never show my emotions. I have to be kind of like, you know, I can always go. I don't feel bad about anything. And then I understood, yeah, but actually that's the way, that's the path to damaging your mental health. So I have learned to actually show my emotions, meaning that, for example, if I'm at that moment overwhelmed and you ask me like, hey, is something wrong? And, you know, usually we say, no, all is good, all is good. Then now I say, yeah, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, I actually feel down. And in that way, you kind of like get off that pressure of yourself that you have expressed it. And then we always attach this kind of like negative emotion, bad emotion. But if you actually accept and learn that there are no bad or good emotions, they're just a part of our daily life, it kind of like takes off really that pressure. The second thing is that, for example, even as we have been working like for more than a year, but launched like for the past 4 months, then at the moments where kind of like I feel that, okay, kind of like, you know, that's it, kind of like I'm a total failure, everything is bad. And then I just think to myself like, okay, let's assume I'll quit today. I give up. So what do I do next? Still, you will have to work somewhere. You have to find a sugar daddy. So it's still work. No one will just show up at your doors. So it's still work. So it means in that moment, you just think that, well, do you really want one of those paths to take? No, you don't. And then you understand, well, then there's no option. There's no other option. You just have to kind of like, you know, get your shit together and just keep. Maybe if you feel you need to kind of slow down a bit, okay, fine, work for like 4 hours for a week and then go back into your regular schedule, because as James said, that will kind of like come and become like a founder and get rid of your personal life. Well, it is almost like that, you know, like very often people say, oh, I don't want to work 5 to 6, no, but 8 to 6. And then you just, yeah, you create your company so that you can work 24/7. So yeah, that's my second thing, where I just kind of like think about even the craziest alternatives. What I like to say, like, think of the most ridiculous stuff you can imagine as an alternative, and then think whether that's really something you would actually be fine and would be happy with. Most likely not. So you just kind of like find the motivation. Third thing is at least for me, the big mission. So for me, there is like a big mission in terms for like social workers, social people who work also at animal shelters. One problem is that even if you want to do a good job and help someone, you will do it in your free time, volunteer, because, well, animal shelter will not pay you a lot of money, so you will not be able to sustain your lifestyle as you wish. So my goal is kind of like one day to build a fund which basically subsidizes salaries for social workers so that they can actually attract and steal, you know, like good people from Printify, from Nordigen, from Pipedrive, and kind of like they can build like those awesome organizations like animal shelters, any other social organization. And that is kind of like my drive also. Sometimes when I feel bad, then I think like, okay, is there anyone else who is kind of like that passionate about especially like animal shelters who will actually try to do that and attract some big business people to invest in this fund? Then I think like most probably not, so I have to do it. And then I remember I have no other choice. I just have to do this. Who will help them? Who will help those animals? So I have to do it. And then on top of that, when you really feel down, then basically, yeah, it's nature, and for me, sports. Like I do a lot of sports, and then that's like 1 hour, 2 hours where I forget that even I'm working, that I own anything. It's just like beach volleyball, there's sand, ball, and that's it. And you just have to hit. And of course, there are also failures, and you don't hit the right way, and it's bad. But then that's your biggest problem for those 2 hours. The biggest problem in your life is that you didn't hit that ball correctly. And then it's kind of like, and then after those 2 hours, you feel like a new person again. So,
Do you have your own daily TV show? Or something? No, I was like, you know, I was like, wow, like, you know, or you're tweet daily some kind of motivational talks in Instagram and getting those photos. Okay, this was good one. The good news is that there are other people also who care about animals. How many animals we have saved in Ukraine, Dina?
more than 30, I think.
Yeah, talks only. There are actually people now. So, but anyway, Dina is also
So
crazy
you're
talk
not
person.
saving cats?
Yeah. But after that kind of TV show, Robert, what you say now?
Yeah.
No pressure.
Like yeah. No.
Is sugar daddy or motivates you thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah, I
that?
thought about like, God damn it, that's definitely not an option for me.
Oh, you just exited.
Yeah, it's easier now.
Actually, if you watch TikTok, then actually there are people who show, and they have sugar daddies who are guys, so no problem. Everything is possible.
Okay. Like, should download the app. Yeah, like, I mean, like, you know, like, part of it is a very emotional roller coaster, right? So the funny kind of thing is that like you're very much like alone. Like, I have also had like these things when your runway is 2 weeks, but you cannot tell it to anyone, right? It's gonna be kind of like there's a lot of things you kind of tell to team, and like it's something you have to comprehend internally. So I think I would say 80% of my mental health comes off at what really resonates what James said in the beginning, like talking. So I have a wife, and she has to like listen to every single thing that happens during all the hours I work during the day. Like, I don't even expect her to kind of listen or to respond.
By the way, you can take a talk. That's better for that.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, like, that really helps me. Like, and I think you have to kind of get it out and kind of talk about these things. Like, and I haven't found any better way to do it. And the remaining 20%, I think it comes back to, you know, if you look at kind of people who are very, very, very hardworking, I think their routines boils down to simple things like sports, meditation, drugs. I don't necessarily recommend, but like work. So, like probably a combination of these things and a few others. So kind of.
If anything, then in car sharing, I can help you with these things. We sometimes find those drugs in the car, so if anything, pinch me.
James, I think that you are a good example. Let's talk with drugs.
Oh wow. Being conscious also of time, I will just agree to everything what has been said.
So sugar daddy it is.
If I have to add anything, one thing that comes to my mind, I think it's amazing if you have a wife and she listens or even pretends listening to what you say. I'm not married yet and would not try to kill my wife with all the information about my work troubles. But what I definitely recommend for you is to have a co-founder. Co-founder statistically doubles your chances of succeeding in a startup, and it otherwise, if you do it on your own, will be a very lonely road. And you cannot go to the employees or your mom to discuss about those challenges. So I highly, highly recommend everyone to have co-founder, any sort of co-founder, technical co-founder, marketing, whatever, just have a person that is in the same boat, has the same perspective, and you can share those challenges and go together with somebody.
By the way, the talking part exactly was reason why in Estonia we have Estonian Founders basically society. Because exactly as you said, many times you just cannot tell everything to employees exactly. And the investors will also hate some information. So you are basically between two fires. And we, the one thing what again Skype did good that they invested to bunch startups and they was running the events when you have like only founders. And this is how we started basically founder association in Estonia. And I also doing actually some dinners, like I just invite like exactly 7,000-8,000 founders.
Tinders?
No, there's dinners, not like weed or whatever, but like, anyway, so I'm actually doing this kind of things that you meet 5, 6, 7 people who working like are founders and they understand the things what to tell them because they are going through the same pain, you know, so.
Another thing that I would suggest is do not shy from using professional help like psychologists. I had that opportunity when I was going through 500 Startups Accelerator. They did a very nice thing that they named their psychologist as CEO coach. So you feel better when you're going to psychologist. But pretty much all he did was listening to me whining about my problems, and it really made me feel better. And we offer that to anyone who wants it at Printify. And also having coaches is a really good thing. Absolutely recommend. And it's hard to find the right coach right away, so I strongly recommend to have a few, like try several until you find one. I have one I started working recently. I absolutely, I'm incredibly appreciative of that support that I'm getting. So yes, don't shy away from using professional help, and also coaches are super helpful.
Yeah, because of our TV stars, we have already talked so long. So I can take just 1-2 questions if you have, because let me see, is there any beer left? No? Okay, then we should wrap it up shortly. Anyone has questions? Usually in Estonia, no one has. How is it in Latvia? Yeah. Oh my God, you break the model. So who you ask and what's the question?
Thank you for this beautiful discussion, first of all. My name is Alex, and I have a question about the culture. What is the most important thing that you implied specifically or occasionally in your culture that helps you to survive in crisis, that support you? Is it clear?
So what is the most important part of the culture which helps to survive in the crisis? You know, I think that I will give that angle. You need to have freaking good reason why this company exists, like vision and mission. You really need to have something big how to explain that how this thing what you do is the most important in the world. And this needs to be like black and white clear for you and people who join. You should be sure that if you hire them, they understand why you are 24/7 up. I would say that would keep people doing it. Like I'm just reading now Elon Musk book again, like how he was doing fundraising. He closed around in Christmas Day, next day he would be bankrupted. Like this is amazing. Like he's selling like fucking. He will not be in Mars next like 10 years most likely. But this statement is the strongest, I think so. What about you, James?
I would add to that. I think that especially in the very beginning, you as a founder, you are the culture. It doesn't matter what you write on the wall or post-it notes, etc. Like your behavior creates the culture, and the most important success factor for entrepreneurs is your grit, perseverance, so that you do not give up. So I would say it has to come from you. People need to see that you are here to stay. You will do whatever it takes for the company to succeed, and people will appreciate that. And it's absolutely great to have clear vision and mission. Sometimes in the early days you might not have it, or it might change every 3 months. But often it's that you will just have to get together a group of people that want to build a really world-class company and do something good together. That also works.
Okay, let's take last question. Anyone? Yes?
Yeah, it's going to be an off-topic question, but still have an opportunity to ask it. So, yeah, I mean, Salto in its bone, in its core operation, is actually utilizing the blockchain tech and NFTs and everything around Web3. My question to you, what is your overall perception of all the things happening in the Web3 space? And are you ready to adopt some of the principles in your companies? Or maybe you have something already started? Just sure.
You know, I think that what is going on with Web3 is perfect thing. Like there's always this like cycles and hype. And I believe that what we will start to show is much more practical things, how Web3 can help you. Because I do have some NFT with monkey tuck, but with all the frankness, I think that selling these beautiful NFTs is not so much valuable for many people. The point of like the thing which Web3 is moving is like all of like it give you tool to being transparent and basically honest and respectable for, and it will always be around. So that's the thing. And by the way, and also like we're talking about NFTs, other things, I'm still like, I see more and more useful things now going out. There's definitely some things will die, but same time there are NFT, there are Web3 companies which has, let me tell you, 10 years of run rate, because they fundraised literally like in the spring. But I believe it will, many people who was, you go in and, too many people talk about Bitcoin, like what the fuck, like, why this is important even? Like that's really is important that you have something which grows forever, really. I believe that we will see change, huge, and I think that there will be way more practical things will get out of that. So crisis always will clean out the, sorry to say, trash, because the best companies started in crisis, by the way, because the bad companies die, easy as that. So that's why I believe, and also like I believe that the best part of Web3 has way higher values, like thinking about everything, how you basically like. So let's say data is owned by users and all of those things which we don't like in Silicon Valley now should be fixed. But I think that this transformation period will take most likely, no one knows how long. But like a year ago when we talked with, when we started, some people was like, so like, if I join your company, I want to leader like 10% of that, something like that, because I have my NFT portfolio. And now it's like McDonald's hiring all of these people. So this is good thing, by the way. There are also more and more like, today I saw some photo in LinkedIn like, hey, this is I bought this llama like a year ago. It was 1,200. Today it's 40. Follow my investment advice. All of those things is now funny, and this is good. I am investor in one company which is building fundamental way, basically like Stripe for NFTs, that you can basically use this for everything that you have. And they have, by the way, at this moment, as a bit practical use case, just all of these numbers is going still up, because it was not about the art, but practical use. So that's why I believe that Web3 actually will strive and be alive. It's just not that one, and hopefully we will hear less about Bitcoin, which I personally, it was a great start, but all of this like Bitcoin zillionaires has just, I'm done with that. This is whatever, 2010, okay? Okay, I think that we have TV show is very long. Sadly, we had so great stars today here. Never seen like I know James a little bit and Robert, but I didn't know that she's so big star. She knew their own show definitely. Who? Oh, really?
No, I actually wanted to just chip in to what you asked. So basically, when we started the company, we didn't build a blockchain. We just looked at like what's the problem we're solving, and at some point we decided that it makes sense for us to use it on the back end as a utility. But we are not kind of hardcore blockchain for all company. It's just like useful technology, it has its use case. We had long discussions and decided that it's just the best for us. That's it.
Yeah, but we have CryptoCat in the team, and we have indeed hardcore folks indeed. Anyway, so let's take a big applause of this TV star today. And then I really hope that soon we will see your own TV show or podcast. I think it would be like Brutal Honesty or how Sugar Daddy will motivate your life.
How not to have him.
Yes, exactly. That would be the great show. I think you will get great audience. Somebody needs to do